The sun was shining high in the sky, burning down on the long, empty road. The ground was so hot that it almost looked like fire. The air felt thick and even the wind was warm. On that road walked Maria, a young woman with tired eyes and a baby in her arms. She was barefoot and each step on the hot ground felt like walking on burning coals. But she kept walking. She had no shoes, no umbrella, no help, just her will to keep going. Her baby was wrapped in a thin, faded blanket that once was bright blue. Now it was covered with dust, but she tried her best to keep the child safe from the sun. The baby's small face was pressed against her shoulder, and its soft whimper was the only sound that followed her. She gently rocked the baby as she walked, whispering softly, trying to calm it down even though she herself was exhausted. The road seemed endless. On both sides were dry fields, cracked like broken glass from the heat. There were no trees to give shade. The air shimmered above the ground like waves of heat dancing in the distance. Maria wiped the sweat from her forehead with the back of her hand. Her skin was red from the sun and her lips were dry and cracked. She had been walking for hours, but she didn't stop. She couldn't. Stopping meant giving up, and giving up was not an option. Cars passed her now and then. Some were small, some were big trucks. Every time she heard the sound of an engine, her heart would jump with hope. Maybe this one will stop, she thought. Maybe someone will see me, someone will help. But every time, the cars kept going. Drivers would look, but they wouldn't slow down. Some didn't look at all. Some turned their faces away, pretending they hadn't seen her. It hurt, but Maria didn't let the pain stop her. She looked straight ahead and kept walking. Her feet were sore and blistered, but she had learned to ignore the pain. Her legs shook with each step. Her back ached from carrying the baby, but she never shifted the child from her arms. She wanted the baby to feel safe, even if everything around them was harsh and unforgiving. As she walked, memories of her home flashed in her mind. The small house where the roof leaked when it rained. The little bed she had made for her baby. The sound of crickets at night and the smell of earth after the rare rain. She remembered how she used to sit on the front steps holding her baby, dreaming of a better life. She had left that place behind now, not because she wanted to, but because she had no other choice. The road stretched out like a river of heat. There was no sign of a bus, no shop, no place to rest. Her mouth was so dry that it was hard to swallow. She licked her lips, but it didn't help. The baby shifted a little in her arms and began to cry softly. The sound cut through the silence like a fragile bell. Maria's heart tightened. She tried to rock the child gently, whispering, "Shh, it's okay, little one. We're going. We'll be okay." Her voice was soft and shaky, but she forced a smile for the baby's sake. The crying grew louder as the heat became harsher. She looked around, desperate for even a little shade. She saw a large rock on the side of the road and slowly walked toward it. She sat down carefully, letting her feet rest for a moment. The ground burned her skin, but she didn't care. She pulled the baby close, covered its head with the corner of the blanket, and tried to shield it from the sun. The baby's breathing slowed and it fell asleep in her arms, tired from the heat. Maria closed her eyes for a moment. She could feel the sweat dripping down her neck, the heat pressing down on her chest. She wanted to cry, but no tears came. She was too tired for tears. She took a deep breath, trying to gather strength. "I can't stop," she whispered to herself. "I can't stop now." She pushed herself back to her feet. Her legs wobbled, but she didn't let herself fall. She started walking again, step by step, like someone climbing a long, steep hill. The sun didn't show mercy. It burned hotter with each passing hour. But Maria was stubborn. Her love for her child gave her the strength she didn't even know she had. Far away, in the distance, she saw a small shimmer of something, maybe a building, maybe a sign, maybe just her tired eyes playing tricks. But that was enough to give her hope. She focused on it, letting the thought of reaching it fill her tired mind. Just a little more, she told herself. Just a little more. Another car passed. A white truck. It slowed down for a second and her heart leaped. She waved weakly with her free hand, hoping someone inside would stop. But the truck sped up again, leaving behind a cloud of dust that made her cough. The baby woke up crying and Maria held it tighter, her throat tightening too. "It's okay," she whispered again. "We'll make it." The sun had no mercy. Her skin burned with every ray. Her shoulders ached from holding the baby, but she never complained. She never said a single word of anger or fear. She just kept walking. She knew the baby depended on her. If she gave up, everything would end here on this empty road. That thought was enough to keep her moving forward. As the day went on, the sound of crickets faded. replaced by the humming of the wind brushing against the dry fields. A bird flew across the sky, its wings spreading wide. For a moment, Maria watched it and thought about freedom. The freedom to go anywhere, to rest, to drink water whenever it wanted. She wished life could be that simple for her and her child, but life was not kind like that. Her vision blurred a little from the heat. The edges of the road shimmered like water, but she knew it wasn't real. Her head felt light and her legs felt heavy, but she whispered to herself again and again, "Don't stop, don't stop." She imagined cool water, soft shade, and a safe place for her baby to sleep. Those thoughts gave her strength. The sound of another engine made her turn. A small car drove by. The driver looked at her but quickly turned their eyes away. She saw it clearly this time. The way people saw her but chose not to help. It wasn't just the heat burning her anymore. It was the silence, the quiet way people let someone suffer without saying a word. But she didn't shout at them. She didn't curse. She just tightened her grip on the baby and walked on. She passed an old wooden fence, half broken, half standing. She imagined what it would be like to live on land like that, with animals, shade, maybe even a small house. A simple life. A safe life. She promised herself that one day she would build something like that for her child, a place where they wouldn't have to walk through fire just to survive. The sun began to lower slightly, but the heat was still heavy. Her steps grew slower, but they didn't stop. She was no longer walking like a person going somewhere. She was walking like someone fighting a silent battle. Her body was tired, but her spirit was strong. Every step she took was filled with love and pain, fear and hope. The baby stirred in her arms, opening its eyes just a little. Maria looked down at that tiny face, so soft and innocent, and smiled. "We're going," she whispered again. "We're going to make it." It wasn't just words. It was a promise she made to herself and to the little life she was carrying. The road ahead still looked long, but she had already come so far. Her feet were bruised, her body exhausted, but her heart was fierce. She walked through the burning heat like a quiet warrior, unseen by the world, unheard by those who passed by. But she knew, deep in her heart, that her story was not going to end here on this road. And so, with the sun still high and the baby safe in her arms, Maria kept moving forward, step by step, into the unknown. Maria kept walking even though her body begged her to stop. Her arms felt heavy from holding the baby, her feet were scratched and blistered from the hot ground, and her head felt light as if the sun was pushing down on it. The road stretched out like a never-ending line, but she kept her eyes forward. She whispered softly to her baby again and again, "We'll make it. We'll make it." Then just when her knees felt weak and she thought she might fall, a sound came from behind her, the sound of an engine. It was slow and deep, not like the fast cars that had rushed past her before. It grew louder until she could feel a small cloud of dust rising behind her. Maria turned her head slowly. An old truck was coming closer. Her heart began to beat fast. She didn't wave this time. She didn't have the strength. She just stood still, holding her baby close, blinking through the bright sunlight. The truck slowed down. The tires crunched over the dry road. Finally, it stopped a few steps ahead of her. A tall man stepped down from the truck. He wore an old hat and dusty boots. His face was tanned and lined from years spent under the sun. His name was Henry, though she didn't know it yet. He lived alone on a small ranch not far from the road. He had driven this way to get supplies, and that's when he saw her, a woman standing in the burning heat with a baby in her arms. For a moment, they just looked at each other. Henry saw the tiredness in her face, the way she held her child close as if protecting the only thing she had in the world. Maria saw kindness in his eyes. Not pity, not judgment, just kindness. He spoke gently, his voice warm and calm. "Ma'am, are you okay?" Maria opened her mouth to speak, but no words came. Her throat was too dry, her lips cracked. She swallowed hard, trying to speak, but only a soft sound escaped. Henry stepped closer, but slowly, making sure not to frighten her. He could see how exhausted she was. "Do you need some water?" he asked softly. She nodded weakly. Henry walked back to his truck, pulled out a large bottle of water, and returned. He handed it to her carefully. Maria took it with shaking hands. She drank slowly, every drop cooling her dry throat. It felt like a miracle. She then poured a few drops on her baby's lips, and the child stirred softly, calmer now. Henry watched her silently, understanding more than words could say. He could tell she had been walking a long time. He could tell she had no one else to help her. "Where are you going?" he asked gently. Maria hesitated. She didn't want to share everything with a stranger. But she looked at the truck, at the water, at the man's face. Something inside her told her she could trust him. In a soft, tired voice, she whispered, "Town. Just town." Henry nodded. "That's still a few miles from here," he said kindly. "You won't make it walking in this heat, come on." "I can give you a ride." Maria looked down at her baby. Her feet ached so much that standing felt like a battle. The sun burned against her skin. She slowly nodded. Henry opened the door of his truck and gently helped her climb in. She held the baby tightly against her chest as she sat on the seat. The leather was hot, but it felt like heaven compared to the burning road. As the engine started, the truck moved forward slowly. For the first time in hours, Maria felt wind on her face. Not the harsh, burning wind of the open road, but a soft breeze through the window. It brushed against her tired cheeks, and she let out a shaky breath she hadn't realized she was holding. Her body relaxed a little, but her heart was still racing. Henry glanced at her a few times but didn't ask too many questions. He didn't want to push her. Instead, he spoke softly about small things, the weather, the road, his ranch. His voice was calm and steady, like the sound of soft rain after a long, dry season. Maria didn't say much, but she listened. The baby finally fell asleep in her arms. Its tiny hand rested against her chest. Maria gently rocked the child without even thinking. For the first time that day, she felt safe. Not fully, but enough to let her body rest. She leaned her head against the seat and closed her eyes just for a moment. Henry noticed how tired she was. He had lived alone for many years, taking care of his ranch, his horses, and his fields. He had learned to read people's eyes. Hers told a story of quiet strength, of walking far when the world turned its face away. He felt something stir in his heart, a soft ache that made him want to help. When they reached his ranch, Henry stopped the truck. It wasn't a big house, but it was clean and welcoming. A few horses were grazing under the shade of a tree, and the windmill turned slowly in the warm breeze. Maria blinked at the sight. She hadn't expected him to stop here. "Come inside," Henry said gently. "You need to rest a bit. You and the little one." Maria hesitated. She didn't know this man, but something about the quiet place and the softness in his voice made her feel safe. She followed him slowly into the small house. Inside, it was cool and calm. There was a wooden table, a few chairs, and a soft chair near the window. Henry brought her more water and a little food, some bread and fruit. Maria hadn't eaten since early morning. She thanked him softly, her voice almost a whisper, and began to eat slowly, carefully. The baby stirred awake, and Henry quietly brought a clean cloth soaked in cool water. Maria placed it gently on the baby's forehead to cool its skin. The little one relaxed again, and Maria felt her heart ease a little. Henry didn't ask her for her whole story. He didn't ask where she had come from or why she was walking alone. He simply said, "You can rest here for a while. The sun's too strong out there." She nodded, her eyes heavy but warm. "Thank you," she whispered. Time passed slowly but softly. She sat near the window watching the fields outside. She saw a horse run across the grass, free and strong. It reminded her of her promise to give her child a better life. She felt the strength she thought she had lost slowly return to her heart. Henry sat at the table, quietly fixing a rope he used for the horses. He didn't talk much, but his presence felt safe. She felt like she had stepped into a different world, a world where she wasn't invisible, where someone cared enough to stop. After some time, Henry spoke again. "I can take you to town tomorrow morning. It'll be cooler then, and you'll be less tired." Maria looked at him. "Why?" she asked softly. "Why are you helping me?" Henry paused, then gave a small smile. "Because once, a long time ago, someone helped me when I needed it most. And I never forgot." Her eyes softened. She didn't know his story, but she understood what he meant. She whispered a quiet thank you, and though the words were simple, they carried all the weight of her heart. That night, Maria and her baby slept inside the house on a small bed Henry had made ready for them. The baby lay wrapped in the blanket, breathing softly. Maria lay beside her child, listening to the quiet sounds of the ranch, the wind outside, the soft creak of the wooden walls. It was the first time in a long time she felt safe enough to close her eyes fully. The next morning, the sun rose gently. Henry had already packed the truck with a little food and water for the road. Maria stood by the door holding her baby, and for a moment she looked around the ranch again. She saw the green of the grass, the soft shadows under the trees, the horses standing quietly. It felt peaceful, like a place from a dream. Henry walked over and opened the truck door. "You ready?" he asked kindly. Maria nodded. She climbed in and Henry started the engine. They drove toward town as the early sun lit up the sky. The air was cooler now, and the road didn't seem so endless anymore. Maria looked out the window, holding her baby close. She thought about everything that had happened, how no one had stopped, how the sun had burned her skin, how the road had felt endless. But she also thought about Henry, about the truck, about the kindness that had changed everything. When they reached the town, Henry parked the truck near a small community center. People there could help her find a safe place to stay. Maria turned to him with soft eyes and said, "I'll never forget this." Henry smiled. "You don't have to," he said gently. "Just promise me one thing. When someone else needs help, don't turn away." Maria nodded slowly. "I promise." She stepped out of the truck holding her baby close. The air in town felt different. It wasn't just cooler. It felt lighter. She took a deep breath and walked forward, her feet still sore but her heart stronger. She turned once to look back. Henry waved at her from the truck before driving away down the road. Maria stood there for a moment, the baby in her arms, the sunlight soft on her face. She realized that sometimes in the hardest moments, kindness can come from the most unexpected place. One man had stopped when no one else did, and that moment had changed her story forever.